And welcome back to World Sports Show. Charlie Flowe here with Kevin Haynes and John Nicricio. World Sports Show broadcasting on WPPN LP Philadelphia. On the line, we have Mike Vest, the co-owner and co-founder of Lionsbridge FC. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Doing really well. How you guys doing?
Good. It's very exciting times in soccer. MLS playoffs going on, and very exciting times, I'm sure, down there in Newport News. You guys are going through your coaching search and getting preparations ready for 2018. I'm sure that it's a lot to do. You want it to start, but I'm pretty sure you've got a lot of planning to do still.
Yeah, we do. It's been it's funny because we've been working on this project for a while here over the last about 7-8 months now, and it really feels like since we announced that we were going into PDL on November 14th, it does feel like everything has accelerated. It felt like it was going pretty fast already. But once we made the big announcement in terms of a stadium agreement and a league affiliation, things have really picked up even more.
Now, tell us why that you guys decided to go with the PDL versus MPSL.
Yeah, we looked at a couple different leagues, and I guess to rewind a really long time now, to kind of go back to about 15 years ago, that's when I really became first acquainted with PDL in my time at Wake Forest, working with the soccer team there as a media relations person. We sent guys every summer right down the road to the Carolina Dynamo, and they've been around for a really long time in Greensboro, only about half an hour or so from the campus at Wake Forest. And so I was familiar with PDL a little bit through that, and that had to be in the very, very infancy of the league. Looking back at it now. So I was more familiar actually with PDL over the years, and really, I guess it was about February or so this past year, came across the article that Grant Wall wrote covering Kingston Stockade and Dennis Crowley's efforts up in the Hudson Valley, and was fascinated. Was just absolutely floored by the idea that you could start a club from scratch, and as somebody who'd worked in college athletics for a long time, colleges and athletic departments aren't generally started from scratch.
Yeah.
So I just read that article that night in total amazement, and that's really kind of where the first interest and really the first time I, to be honest with you, had heard of NPSL. And so we looked at that for a while, but also knew that PDL was another league that we should be looking at. And as we kind of went through and did all of our due diligence, talked to a lot of coaches at the collegiate level in Division I, kind of asking them, if we were going to start a club from scratch, where should we go? And it was really unanimous that among that group of people that PDL was across the board probably a better platform for exposure and development in getting guys onto the next level to start their pro careers. And so, as we went further and further down the road, I think it just became more clear that that PDL would be the best home for us. And then also, looking at the geography of the league as it stands right now, we're the only PDL team between Washington, D.C. and the Raleigh-Durham area. So, that gives us a lot of geographical advantages, I think, in our mind, because there's a lot of local players in a pretty wide swath of a soccer-rich state that we can compete for.
Yeah, you talked about that, about just making a local team, and there's enough talent, just the Hampton Roads area alone, just getting players, and there's already several colleges in the area to pull from. I mean, you could really have a 7-5-7 team 100% and have a very competitive team, and still you would have to almost be turning players away. You have that many talent right in our backyard, and I think that's the best part about growing a club. It's we watch pro sports all the time on television, and how many of the players are actually from the town they play for? Not many, but this is a true definition of somebody that plays for their town.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, we look at, we've got 4 NCAA soccer programs here in Hampton Roads, but really there's also a lot of players, and this I think this is the type of thing, to your point, that kind of gets overlooked. Is the high schools in Hampton Roads have produced quite a bit of college soccer talent over the years. What happens is because you only have 4 college soccer programs here, a lot of that talent does go elsewhere. Some of this information is a little bit outdated, but we found 93 players that played high school soccer in Hampton Roads that are playing college soccer somewhere in North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and D.C.
Wow.
And I'm sure that there are a lot of people outside those borders that are playing further afield. So to have a PDL team here in this market, to give those players who are endeavoring to have a professional soccer career and give them an opportunity to continue to work towards that goal here in their hometowns is something that we're going to take a lot of pride in and hope to have, like you said, a 7-5-7 team to the very best of our ability.
Now, growing up as a kid, I grew up in Newport News, and we had a couple minor league teams, but, we and you talked about it last week, how a lot of the Hampton Roads area kind of gets to focus on Norfolk and Virginia Beach. That's where the big cities are, and you have a lot of the big soccer programs are either Virginia Beach or Richmond, and Newport News is like right in the dead middle of it, and we always seem the peninsula kind of falls by the wayside, but, putting a team in the very central part of the peninsula, what were some of your reasons for that?
Well, I think the key there, I think what you said is, the peninsula is a pretty great place. And, it gets overlooked, I think quite often. And I'm not totally sure why that is. We've got 500,000 people on the peninsula, to give everybody a sense. Hampton Roads, which, made up of 7 cities, most notably, I think when you're not from this area, you're thinking of Norfolk and Virginia Beach. The South Side and the Peninsula are kind of the 2 areas of our market. The overall market's about 1.8 million, and we have 500,000. So we're obviously considerably smaller than those, than the South Side. But 500,000 people is a pretty good sized market, and one that's certainly big enough and it's generating a lot of talent, a lot of interest. There's a lot of events in this area. Sporting events, not quite as many on the peninsula as there are on the South Side. But we have a lot of non-sporting events that people really come out for. There's a ton of pride in growing up here, as you know, Charlie, in people who move here, whether it's through the military or for other vocations. And it's a very active, vibrant area that just for some reason over the years, the peninsula specifically just has not had a lot of sporting options, just in general across the board. And so, we think that there's a gap that can be filled. It's not a sleepy town. It's not a sleepy area. I think that there's an opportunity for us to be able to provide a affordable family entertainment option here on the peninsula, and we have high hopes for from a competitive standpoint on the field, but we also have really high hopes for on the off the field part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, hit a home run getting connected with CNU, a place that has facilities, locker rooms, they have a broadcast booth, so you have a lot of things that are already set up where a lot of the PDL teams are having to go into and create and find these spaces where I think, like I said, this is a home run. How did that all go down getting this relationship started with CNU?
Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, just to give everybody a little bit of background, the stadium that we're going to play in has 3,000 permanent seats, has a video board. Like you mentioned, there's a press box. The infrastructure that we have, I only half jokingly say this, stumbled into. The situation that we're walking into with CNU from a stadium standpoint, from a partnership standpoint, the types of things that we're going to be allowed to do in there from an entertainment standpoint with the video board. We'll be able to serve beer. We'll be able to shoot off fireworks. We'll be able to do a lot of the ancillary activities.
Well, you just got half of Virginia interested there, fireworks and beer.
Yeah, right? That was going back to your asking about how did that really come about. We met with Kyle McMullen, who's the athletic director at Christopher Newport, back in the spring. And it was just a casual conversation of, hey, what would you think if, we were interested in renting Tomoko Stadium, which is where their football team plays. Beautiful grass surface. just wide enough to be able to play soccer. And what would you think about that? And he said, yeah, we'd love to have that conversation. I said, well, hold on a second. Would we be able to do the following things? Could we serve beer? And he said, yeah, I think so. And I said, okay. Could we shoot off fireworks after the game? He said, yeah, we do that for our football games periodically. I said, okay. Could we bring in food trucks? And they said, yeah, sure. And I was like, all right, well, what else should I be asking for now? Because I think, there should be some other things that we should, while we're on this roll of yeses, that we should be asking for. So, they have been totally supportive of the vision of creating a real event. We love soccer, right? I mean, I think everybody listens to the show loves soccer. But what we wanted to do more than just create a soccer club or, roll out the ball and play a soccer game is we wanted to put on a full-blown event. And we felt like if we could put on a full-blown event that is affordable for the whole family, that whether you like soccer or you love soccer, that you'll have a reason to come out to the games. The whole family can come out for less than the cost of a babysitter. If we could do all those different types of things, then we felt like we had a chance to be successful. If we couldn't do some or all of those things, it's tough. I mean, it's really tough. And I think, that's where I think that we're extremely fortunate that we're walking into a situation where, frankly, we've got the golf balls on the tee. Now we just got to get up and hit it.
Yeah, I think the great thing about the PDL, I've worked with a couple PDL teams before, and I had about 8 of my college players play PDL last summer. And you get a lot of the turnover, so it is a developmental. I mean, the D in it stands for developmental league. So, I think it's more of it's definitely hits the grassroots of growing the game, where it's not just a private club like some of the highest level professional teams that their goal is to win games. Where here is to entertain fans and help these college players get to be better players. And then one day, it's like a farm system. You can look back and say, that guy's playing for DC United. He was one of our first ever players. And, then you have notable alumni that really can help you pitch towards the following years. Hey, these many guys play for us. These are the guys that went pro. And I try to get all of my college players to play in some type of league, and I do push PDLs. If you have a chance to play for a PDL team, go play for a PDL team. It's what every college coach wants their players to do in the summer.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think what you're saying, too, about, being able to be competitive and also entertain, we're of the mindset that you can do both, that you don't have to do one or the other. I think that, there's an opportunity for fans to come out who, like I said earlier, maybe they're not as educated on the game. To be honest with you, we really haven't had a lot of, for the most part, if you wanted to go see a high-level soccer game and you lived in this area, you needed to drive at least to Richmond to go see the Kickers, and they do a phenomenal job and have for 25 years. They've been breaking attendance records, each of the last 5 years, drawing 4,000 people a game, sometimes way more than that. Or you needed to go all the way to D.C. And, it's hard to get to D.C. Through all the traffic, especially with young families. So, the idea of being able to stay here, watch high-level soccer, and, have a good night of entertainment, it's just something that, we feel like it was a little surprising to us that we didn't have something quite like this already here on the peninsula itself, because, there is a little bit of a divide that naturally exists between the peninsula and the south side. And there's no animosity between the two. They just sort of separately coexist.
Yeah, that big body of water kind of separates us.
Yeah,
it's just a geographic separation.
Yeah, when you've got to go over over and under and through the Chesapeake Bay to get to the other side, there's a lot of folks that don't like to do that. And so, that's where, we live about 40 minutes or so from Virginia Beach, and sometimes it sort of feels like it's on the other side of the world, but we're all kind of considered to be in the same market. And so, that's, and the same goes for Richmond. We're almost halfway between Richmond and Virginia Beach, and we don't ever really think of Richmond and Hampton Roads as being part of the same market.
I think the neat part about this whole PDL, since I've worked with the PDL teams and had my players, is the fan bases you get and the accessibility of these players. That as a kid, I went to single A Pilots games because soccer just didn't even exist on any type of professional level as a kid. But I remember almost every game my dad took me to, I got an autograph. And that's the thing is these kids are going to have such access, and at the end of the day, they're going to start looking up to these players. Then if you have like public events, you have these players, and they get autographs, and then the big win for CNU, they're getting these kids on this campus and exposing them to this college atmosphere, and all these players mostly play in colleges. So you're preaching college ball, and you're getting them right in the faces of these players and getting autographs. And these kids, it doesn't take much to impress a kid. I never realized as a kid that I was watching single A baseball. I was told I'm watching professional baseball, and that's all that mattered to me.
Yeah, we had the same experience growing up. I mean, I still remember, I grew up in Kansas City.
Yeah, you're talking about the Comets, man. You brought it back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the Kansas City Comets, and the MISL of the 80s. And it was great, and one of the things that I remember from being a kid at that age was, these guys were absolute rock stars. I mean, if they're wearing a uniform that said Kansas City on it. It was just like, man, that's my hometown. And so, I mean, sports are never better than when you're 10 years old. I've heard many people say that before, and you have just such vivid memories from that age. And that's why it's going to be really important for us to be able to bring our players out into the community. And I think ultimately, I mean, I didn't play soccer growing up past, I don't know, like 8th grade, but I fell in love with soccer because of the Kansas City Comets, and because, they came to my school when I was in the 5th grade, because I got to play on the field of Kemper Arena at halftime.
Wow.
Of a Comets game, and it was probably miserable to watch and look at, but as a kid, like, I'll never forget it. Now, part of that's because it was like the pinnacle of my athletic career, but, I mean, that's as awesome as it gets, and those kinds of opportunities that we can create for kids here in Newport News and Hampton and York County, Potosin, and just all these towns that have never really had anything quite like this before. We have the opportunity to be, the Peninsula's team. And, that's something that, you just, it's a big responsibility, and it's a big opportunity.
Yeah, I think you hit home with the whole youth thing that I have, a lot of friends that I stay in contact with, all my friends and that I went to high school with now, they've all got the kids, and they're all the soccer moms, soccer dads. And I think the hardest thing for them is if they've met me at a couple games in D.C. that I went to and met some friends, but it's really a planned out event. If you want to go to a game in D.C. or even Richmond, it's a planned trip. You can't just hop in the car and, hey, let's go to this game tonight. And that's something you're giving the people of the peninsula, and giving these youth club kids that, hey, they can come right after their game to your game and not have to just plan it out. And then, I've already gotten all these friends now saying, oh, can I be a ball boy? Can I be a ball boy? I'm like, and that's the thing is that impression you can leave on a kid could last the rest of their life just by holding a ball on the sideline for 2 hours. And that's a good problem to have, that you're going to have more requests for ball boys than you can handle, and that's how you build these relationships for the future. Now, what is some of the work you've done or connected with some of the local, clubs, youth clubs? Have you done any of that reaching out yet at all?
Yeah, we have. In fact, I think there's about 8,300 kids on the peninsula that play soccer in some capacity. Some of that's travel, some of that is rec, some of that is YMCA, some of it's through church leagues. I mean, but one of the things that's really important for us is we are club neutral. And what we mean by that is, I think we're trying to be ambassadors of soccer. We're really just trying to grow the game on the peninsula, and we're of the belief that every single type of youth club that there is, when we talk about youth soccer, most people start thinking about travel and all that other stuff. That's great. I mean, that's, and this is another conversation for another day, but that's a common pathway for the best players to go up the chain. What we're trying to do, though, is kind of honor and respect the fact that not every kid plays travel. Not every family comes from a place where they can afford to do that. Not every kid knows that they even like to play soccer. They're just playing because their friends are doing it, and they're 6, 7, 8 years old. All of those clubs have a place and a role to play in the development of the game, whether you're going to be a player or a fan or a coach or whatever the case may be over the years. So what we've been trying to do is reach out to all those different clubs. We've identified, and when I say clubs, I guess I should really be using the term organization.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've reached out to more than a dozen of those so far, trying to get together with them and find out what can we do to support you, knowing that you do something different than the club over there, and they do something different than you, and whatever everyone's doing is good. Like, more soccer is good. So how can we make you guys more successful, and collectively together we can all help grow the game.
No, it's all great, and anything we can do here at World Sports should support you guys. I know you've got a lot of stuff in media, and are you guys planning to try to broadcast your games too? Because I know you've got a lot of the facilities there too.
Yeah, I almost feel like because we have the facilities, we better do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to stream the games. Our plan is to put them onto Facebook Live, just to be able to reach the broadest audience possible. In fact, the folks at Christopher Newport have been really supportive of that. They stream about 120 events a year on their campus, which is pretty remarkable for a D3 school, and they're doing it in virtually every sport that they sponsor. So we're going to get together with them and find out how we can work together. But we're going to be going into their stadium, using their video board, their streaming equipment, we're really excited to work with CNU and figure out how we can make all that go. But ultimately, I think the end goal for us is to be able to get those games up onto Facebook Live, and we're certainly planning to do that right out of the gate.
Remind everybody, I was speaking with Mike Vest, Lionsbridge FC co-owner and co-founder. I want to appreciate you calling to the show, and unfortunately we're running out of time on the show, and appreciate everything you guys are doing down there, and anything we can do from a show, let us definitely know. We definitely are big fans and supporters of your cause.
Well, appreciate you having me on, and we'll look forward to talking again soon.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. Thank you for calling in.
All right, thanks, guys.
Again, that was Mike Vest, the co-founder and co-owner of Lionsbridge FC. There will be a new PDL team out of Newport News, Virginia, playing on the campus of Christopher Newport University. So definitely looking forward to seeing, what they do. And I think the neat part about being an expansion team in PDL is you have so much turnover in the PDL that you're not at a super disadvantage coming into the PDL, because players graduate, you go through the cycle of getting new players. Now you've got a market where there is no other market. So you have players that are going to be home already for the summer. And like he says, you got 90-plus players already in the area. All you need is 11 on the field.
Yeah.
A little bit of a talent pool to pull from there.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they play on grass. Can't argue with that.
That's one thing I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Nice new grass stadium.
Yeah, that sells me. When you look at some of the best programs in ACC, they're playing on grass.